Richician!
Hey YouTube, Dark Richician 84 here, and welcome to part, what are we on, part 11 now? Yeah, part 11 of the history series, and I'm talking about 2014, another year which wasn't exactly one of the best ones. Mainly outside of Yu-Gi-Oh, but also like or maybe one or two things inside Yu-Gi-Oh. So yeah, going into 2014, well, things weren't off to a great start because the Pharaoh's Elite tournaments came to an end. It was just unexpected. I mean, there were a few reasons. Yeah, it was a sad day. I knew they wouldn't last forever, but at the same time, I just didn't see them ending. Yeah, even to this day, I miss Derek running tournaments, whether they were at his house or one of the old halls. So, yeah, at that point there were no locals to go to. Of course, outside of tournament play, I was trying to get hold of an Honor Rock, as I wanted that for my Dark Magician deck. Yeah, that's what I eventually decided on. Dark Magician Hero had finally been retired for good, and I was able to go back to playing pure Dark Magician. Like, I finally figured out a spellcaster build that actually worked, worked well. So that's what I was rolling with ever since. And I eventually got hold of Honor Arc for the deck. Then in March, Dead Universe Comics started running tournaments again. And they'd be running fortnightly on Saturdays. Which was great, although rather annoyingly they did fall onto weeks where I'd have Tash stay over. But it was fine. I think I thought about playing Dark Magician, but I actually decided to play my Galaxy Photon deck, just to try it out. And that was the one and only time I ever played that deck in a locals. Unfortunately, I didn't do very well. I only won one or two matches, one of which was against a Gladiator Beast player. Although I think I got very lucky against him, because there was one point where Heraklinos was out on the field, and what I did was I normal summoned Photon Crusher, a classic, and then attacked and dropped Honest. And then I proceeded to win that match. I don't remember what else I won against. But I remember losing to a competitive player, Darren, who I think was playing Mermails at the time. I can't remember for sure. Don't remember who else I lost against, but I think I also lost against Plater, who at the time was playing Trap Tricks. Um, and then we did have a casual game afterwards where I used my Yusei deck and won against him. And yeah, rather randomly, that was the last time I saw him. Yeah, and it was actually in this tournament where I first encountered Alex, aka Brute Boy, playing a Dragon Ruler deck of some kind. I don't remember if we interacted that day, but we did the following time I saw him, and he would of course go on to be the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament organiser for Did Uni. Yeah, these tournaments had a lot of old faces from Pharaoh's Elite, and and some new ones. Alex being one of them. After that, the April 2014 ban list dropped. And I only remember a few changes, the most notable ones being Morphing Jar and Morphing Jar 2 getting banned. And I remember that they were banned because of the Jackpot 7 OTK, which was understandable, but this was also an indirect hit to both Empty Jar and Dark World. And basically with them gone, Empty Jar was dead, and this also hurt Dark World. So with Morphing Jar and Card Destruction gone, Dark World lost its OTK enablers. Hang on, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. And with them gone, Dark World actually wasn't that bad. It actually became a fair and balanced deck, which I was perfectly happy to play against. It's a shame that changed in 2018, but I'll get to that later. I also remember Coach Soldier Wolfbark and Rekindling got limited as well. I guess Fire Fists were just a bit too good back then. Can't remember for sure. Then after that came another Dead Universe Comics tournament, and I decided to play Rainbow Neos in this one, like just because I could, and along with the fact that I hadn't played that deck in a Dead Uni tournament before. I don't think I fared that well though. I can't remember if I won 2 rounds or 3 rounds, but what I do remember was that this was the very first time I met Weber's 5, and at the time he was playing a Utopia deck, which was cool, and we actually faced each other in round 4 of that tournament, I specifically remember. And I think he got a bit too overwhelmed by Rainbow Neos, and I think my own Utopia. And I guess ever since then, he considered Rainbow Neos an arch nemesis. Although, even though Rainbow Neos is a card that he hates, he actually didn't start hating it until early in 2019 when I did those plays to weaken Cyberdark Dragon, which was talked about before. Now, I don't remember how I did in the earlier rounds, although I think I lost against Giga Karakuri. I'm not sure. But what I do remember was playing against Callan in round 5, another old friend from the early Dead Uni days, at least from that point. Now, I did face him before in one of the Fortune Tour qualifier tournaments back in 2008, but yeah, we met again, and this time he was playing Dark Richician, and I remember some shenanigans with Miracle Flipper, but other than that I managed to win that match with no problems. Then after that, I finally played Dark Magician in one of their tournaments and did pretty well. But again, I only remember 3 matches. I faced off against 2 Giga Karakuri decks, one played by Billsy, the other one by Pask, King Flash himself, another old friend from the Pharaoh's Elite days. Can't believe I didn't bring him up when I was talking about the earlier Pharaoh's Elite tournaments. So I lost against him, but I also remember facing off against Express Gaming, who at that point was playing Cyber Dragons. Yeah, he, Gamer Central and Shieldwing David made a comeback, and we saw a lot more of them. And I remember there was one point in our match where I had a Chaos Sorcerer on the field, and he had Cyber Dragon Nova out. I don't remember if he had something else out. I feel like he probably did, but he went to attack Chaos Sorcerer. I then activated Mirror Force, but in doing so triggered Cyber Dragon Nova's effect and brought out Cyber End Dragon, but he didn't attack with it, maybe because he was worried about my other back row. Of course, I guess he was right to be suspicious, because my other face down was another Mirror Force. Yeah, this was when I was playing 2. In fact, by then it was semi-limited. But it was fine either way, because if he did attack, I would have destroyed it with Mirror Force, but if he didn't, which of course he didn't, I would have then banished Cyber End with Chaos Sorcerer, which of course I did. And then I won the match. And after that, I played my Elemental Hero deck in one of their tournaments, just for the fun of it, and I actually did really well. My first 2 matches were against the only 2 women that were there, one of which was the other half of Jamie the Kid 000, Cupcakey 21 or something like that, who I did face previously, almost a couple of years before, in one of the hall tournaments. Back then she was playing Insectors, I was playing Dark Magician Hero, and unfortunately I lost against her, but this time the tables turned. She was using spell books, but bricked in both games. I think in at least one of them, my only monster was a Wild Heart, and I wasn't seeing a lot of other cards either. But it didn't matter, because her face downs were Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, which she couldn't even use on Wild Heart. So I managed to take the match with not too many problems. Then I won again. Wait, no, I didn't. Then I faced Sam, who was playing a random dragon deck, but I lost against her 2-1. Yeah, she was tougher than I thought. The only other Swiss match I remember having was against Gamer Central, who was playing Heretics. And I think this was one that went to a third game, but I remember finishing him off with Flame Wingman. I think what happened was I had it attack a Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, which was special summoned off Heretic Dragon of King Atum, and it had 0 attack and defense, but Flame Wingman's effect would still trigger because he inflicts damage equal to the original attack points of the monster he destroys in battle, and that was what won me the game. And I actually did make top 4 in this tournament, and I remember facing Max O again, still using Mermails, but didn't do that well. I think it went to a third game. I was trying to outplay a move with that continuous trap that special summons a Mermail. I forget the name of it. All I remember is that it special summons a Mermail and stops you using spells. Oh, what the hell was it? Maybe someone can tell me in the comments, but anyway, it didn't show up because I wanted to time it right so I could play MST on it. But yeah, didn't work out. Now, round about this time, I started properly celebrating 10 years since I first played Dark Magician in my deck, which really should have happened in January, really. But the plan was to bring back almost all the different incarnations of Dark Magician that I'd played over the years, and have past format games with them, and then play them in current format tournaments. Obviously, updated to the ban list from that year. But I didn't want to rebuild my Dark Magic Lockdown deck, because yeah, it was just an abomination of a Dark Magician deck, and I didn't want to use cards to stop anyone from playing. So yeah, Dark Paladin was up first, since that was the very first variant of Dark Magician I ever played, and did pretty well in that. I won 3 out of 5 rounds, although one of them was a bye. I wish I could remember all the matchups, but I do know I defeated a younger player playing a water deck. That's all I remember, really. And then I played pure Dark Magician in the one afterwards, and I think by that point I had a copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosac, which was a great addition to my extra deck. I only remember 3 matchups though. Yeah, I lost against Madolches, and Wind-Ups, but I did beat this random rock deck which Express Gaming was playing, but he said it wasn't his deck, it was it belonged to a friend of his. Um, but I managed to win against that, even though at one point he randomly played Soul Release and banished my Dark Magician. I didn't appreciate that, so I just simply went on to defeat him as an act of revenge. Um, I don't remember what my other matchups were, though. Yeah, it's been a while, as I'm sure you can appreciate. And then after that, I played Dark Magic Strike, but it wasn't a very big tournament because a lot of players had gone to Euros at the time, I think. So yeah, it was a 6-person tournament where it was me, Callum, the one who used wind-ups on me 2 years previously, Kalin, Akil, another of the younger players, and Little George. Yeah, this was a different George, not the George that makes frequent appearances in my duel videos. Yeah, there were just 3 rounds and that was it. So yeah, I played Dark Magic Strike, and let's see, or was it 4 rounds? It might have been 3, it might have been 4, I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if I played against Callum that day. I'll tell you what I do remember though, facing off against Kalin, again with wind-ups, but I lost 2-1 against him. Then I had a bye win, and then I went up against young George, who was playing Malefics, and I managed to win against him. I actually finished 3rd in that tournament, funnily enough, with Callum winning the whole thing with his Madolches. After that, there was a structure deck tournament for the Light Sworn structure deck. This was perfect for me, because I did need some cards to finish rebuilding Dark Magic Sworn. So I actually entered that tournament. I did quite well in that. And then after that, the cards I wanted, well, went towards Dark Magic Sworn. Oh yeah, and some point before this, yeah, I had my last online games with Emma Blue Eyes 10. We had like 2 more in the spring, where her Blue Eyes deck beat my Galaxy Photons, and then my Utopia deck faced her Rainbow Era deck, but I don't for the life of me remember who won. Then we had a couple of games on Dueling Network. The first one was Dark Magic Strike against her Blue Eyes deck, which I won. Then I played Prismagician against her Heretics and lost against her. And the reason why these were my last online games with her were because in May her laptop stopped working, and this ultimately led her to retiring from YugiTubing, because she wasn't able to get it sorted and had nothing to upload videos on. Shame, really, because I do miss our Skype games. What's also crazy is that it's almost been 8 years since we last duelled at all, but I'll get to that later. Um, anyway, carrying on with the tournaments, I then used Prismagician next, and I'm trying to remember if I won 2 matches or 3 matches. Either way, I definitely did a lot better with it than I did several months earlier. Now, I remember I did beat Shieldwing David, and then I lost against one of the competitive players. Don't remember what I played, but I do remember having like one of the worst hands ever, where I drew into all 3 Dark Magicians again and lost against that. And I remember the guy asking, do you play Allure of Darkness in that deck? And I said, no, I don't, because the idea is to get Dark Magician into the graveyard and revive him, and I don't want any of them getting banished, preferably. Now, I can see why Allure might be a good idea, because, it's a draw spell and can banish a brick, but, well, like I said, in Prismagician, you ideally don't want Dark Magician to get banished, so Allure of Darkness is out of the question. And then I lost against someone playing Boojins, even though there was one point where I had Imperial Iron Wall face up to stop the banish effects of the Boojins. And I also inadvertently shut down a bottomless trap hole, which was just hilarious. I wish I could remember my other matchups, though. And then after that I played my Dark Magician Girl deck, but I didn't fare any better. I scrubbed out with that big time. And I think I can just about remember the matchups I had. I lost against 2 Lightsworn decks in the first 2 rounds. One was used by Russ, and the other one was used by Gamer Central, which was shocking. I thought he'd be using Heretics again, but no, he used Lightsworns and actually beat me, and that was the first time he ever won against me. Yeah, that was a shock. I did win a match, though. I won against Shieldwing David. I think that was the only time I was able to properly go off with my plays. Then I lost against Mermails, who I think Big Code was using. But that loss was unfortunate, because I did have a Soul Drain, so I almost couldn't remember the name, on the field, which would stop some of his graveyard effects, but I still ended up losing somehow. In the 5th and final round, I went up against another friend of mine, Myron. I feel like that was the first time we met. Yeah, and he's also a big Dark Magician fan. Yeah, that's basically what he played. So, yeah, we basically played a mirror match. Only mine was more focused on Dark Magician Girl. And it did go to a 3rd game, actually. And I remember really struggling and being on low life points, but I remember a point where I top-decked Mirror Force and set it and thought I could turn the duel around. Unfortunately, he synchro-summoned Beals. Fucking Beals. And yeah, he gamed me with it, and obviously Mirror Force would not have worked on him. Damn, like if he brought out literally anything else, I would have been fine. Like even if it was a Starless Dragon, he would have had to tribute it to Negated. But yeah, it was an unfortunate run, but still fun all the same. After that, I played in an online tournament on Dueling Network, which was organised by a Notu Lord of Light and his wife, Elemental Hero Blazer. And I faced Notu in the first round of it, actually. Oh, and we were using the Starship rule as well. And I took Dark Eradicator Warlock into this one. And yeah, this was the one and only time I played that deck in a tournament. And yeah, it actually worked a lot better than it did 6 years previously. But yeah, I managed to win against him, but then just flopped throughout the rest of the tournament. I lost against someone playing the Dolces, and then I lost against someone playing Tellarknights with the newer Star Seraph monsters. Was it the Scepter and the Chair, which we wouldn't get until several months later in World Superstars. Oh shit, I nearly forgot something else about this point in time. Sorry, just keeping an eye on the upload. There we go, part 9 is published. There we are. Yeah, this was round about the time when pendulums came into the game. Yeah, one of the most broken summoning mechanics ever, and one that's, to be honest, no one asked for, well, except pendulum fans themselves. Now, I don't hate all pendulums, of course, but yeah, it really is such a broken mechanic, and a lot of them have really degenerate, unfair effects, Endymion being one of them, and another being Magispector Kirin. Yeah, they were just insane in Master Rule 3. And Monster Destruction didn't do jack shit against them, really, since they could just keep coming back. It was just like dealing with Grapha all over again, and Archlord Christia. Yeah, they just changed the game too much, and not for the better, if you ask me. Another change in the game that I really didn't like, which came into effect back then, was the fact that whoever goes first can't draw. Now, even though it's been 9 years and I've got more used to it, I still hate that change. Because depending on the decks being played, it meant that whoever goes first would be at an unfair disadvantage in terms of card numbers, just having one less card to work with than the opponent. I mean, I guess if your deck is super consistent and has lots of draw power and search power and the ability to special summon something from the deck, then it doesn't matter, but still, I really don't like this change. I don't think Gamer Central was a fan of it either, and I wish Konami would change the rules back so that whoever goes first can draw again. Another change that I wasn't keen on, to be honest, was, well, not completely keen anyway, was the fact that both players could have a field spell in play. But my only issue with that is that it helps out Gravekeeper players, because it meant that we couldn't use our own field spells to get rid of Necro Valley. Yeah, it was just really annoying, but other than that, that was still a great rule, and it can be fun when both players have a field spell in play. Yeah, anyway, yeah, after that online tournament, came another shit moment or two in 2014. Yeah, Tash then dumped me and didn't tell me why, which of course made me miserable and my heart was broken. And we were together for a year and a half, and then just like that she threw everything away. I mean, obviously, of course, I'm over it. I mean, I've been over it for a long time. I'm not dwelling on it, considering now that I'm happy and engaged, and yeah, I look forward to spending the rest of my life with Emma. Yeah, back then, it just made me down in the dumps, and this was before the following tournament. I mean, I could have just not entered, but I still wanted to anyway, because I didn't want to miss out on any tournaments where I could play these other Dark Magician deck incarnations. Plus, I felt that playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With my friends would try and take my mind off the breakup. Unfortunately, it was a tournament where I didn't do well in. Yeah, so yeah, at this point Dark Magic Sworn was up, but wasn't off to a great start. I lost against Fire Kings. Yeah, Garunix gave me trouble, and I did get Judgment Dragon out, but thought that if I used his field wiping effect, Garunix would come back and wipe out Judgment Dragon, so I decided to destroy it in battle, to try and get round it, but I still lost anyway. Then I lost against Tellarknights, played by Ryan Elson, another old Pharaoh's Elite friend. Then I went up against Shieldwing David, who, poor guy, couldn't really do much against me, and I won that with no problems. Then I went up against Little George again, playing Malefics. I thought this would be an easy win, but boy did I think wrong. Yeah, it was a matchup that I should have won, and yet I didn't due to absolute bullshittery. So, game 1, managed to win with no problems, but then in game 2, Skill Drain did me in. Yeah, I was stuck behind a board of Skill Drain, Mound of the Bound Creator, and Malefic Cyber End Dragon, and my monster destruction was rendered useless, and I pretty much couldn't do anything because of skill drain, although I was able to synchro summon Colossal Fighter. Don't remember how I did it though, but it was just so bad. Like, I had to stall behind Colossal Fighter and my Necro Gardeners and wait to draw into MST. I never did though, and I kept taking too much damage thanks to Mound of the Bound Creator. And then I had to scoop after that game was dragged out for so long. And then, rather annoyingly, time was called, went to the 4-turn rule. And then turn 2, he got out Malefic Cyber End again and did lots of damage to me. He didn't have Mound of the Bound Creator this time. It was another field spell, don't remember which one it was. And then this left me with one more chance to try and win. Now, I did have a way to make Starleash Paladynamo and weaken Malefic Cyber End and get rid of it, but I wouldn't have been able to get my life points higher, and I was desperately trying to figure out what to do. Also didn't help that like one of the other players was getting impatient and was saying, "Oh, hurry up," to which I angrily replied, "I'm thinking." But there was absolutely nothing I could do, so I just scooped. Yeah, it was just bullshit. On one hand, I was like, how the hell did I lose against Malefics with Light Swarms? Yeah, just skill drain and bullshit bad luck and end of match procedure was what did me in there. Another point, another reason why I wish end of match procedure didn't exist. I mean, if I had more time, then I probably could have won. And I remember also saying in my tournament report, this is why Heavy Storm should come back. Not that I think that anymore, though, because with the way I play Dark Magician nowadays, I really don't want Heavy Storm to come back. I mean, it's already bad enough that Harpy's Feather Duster was unbanned. Anyway, back on topic, though, I was just really, really annoyed and salty, as well as miserable and heartbroken. Not a good mix, really. I did win my last round, though, which was against a subscriber. Mega Subatomic, his name was, playing a random synchro deck, which I managed to beat. I wonder what happened to him, because I haven't seen or heard from him since 2015. Yeah, even though I did win 2 matches, I just wasn't happy with the way things went. And that was definitely the final straw with Dark Magic Sworn. I mean, even though it wasn't my main Dark Magician deck, and even though I was going to dismantle it and part with the parts anyway, I just scrapped it for good and vowed never to play that deck again. Despite the fact that people like Bill Z and Chris Reinhardt asked if Dark Magic Sworn would ever come back, but to that I say no chance. I am never playing Dark Magic Sworn again. It's one of those incarnations that I just wish I never made. Like, it was a complete failure, and it just brings back too many bad memories. In fact, it's because they just let me down too much that I actually hate Light Swarms, not for the same reasons that I hate the other decks that I hate though, because like I will still happily play against Light Swans, but yeah, I just hate them because they clearly hate me. But the only reason I play some Light Sworn monsters in my Light Ray deck and my Legendary Knight deck is because unfortunately their need is to make those decks work. I wish I didn't have to play them, but without them they just clog and brick too easily. I mean, yeah, they brick a lot anyway, but at least Light Swans do help get the plays moving. And yeah, I did play with Emma's Light Sworn deck a couple of times, but that was only to help her learn her decks. But yeah, other than that, I just don't want to play with Light Swans myself if I can help it. I had a bit more success in tournaments afterwards though. Like after that, there were a couple of small online tournaments that Static Super Saiyan 3 and his friends organised. Static being another Yugi tuber who I met earlier in the year and became friends with. Yeah, he is a fellow hero duelist. Yeah, only a few of us played in these tournaments on DevPro. I used Dark Magic Spell Counter to start off with. I was off to a good start. I did beat one of their star players. I forget what his YouTube name was, but I know his name was Alex. And he was playing a dark deck, but he bricked in both games. Yeah, it was just really unfortunate on his part. And then I faced Static in the final, and he was playing his generic fire deck. And I struggled a lot against him and lost that. But hey, I finished second, so I was a lot better than I did with the deck 5 years previously. Then after that I played my Dark Magician Knight deck, and I remember facing Z with one of his random decks, the guy who in that Battle War video they did said, and I quote, that he doesn't use sleeves for his deck because he prefers to be naked. Yeah, I just burst out laughing when I saw that bit. Static was pissing himself laughing at that point, and their friend Alex face palmed. I think that has to be my favourite video on his channel by far. So yeah, anyway, I faced off against him and had my plays countered and disrupted by really obscure random cards, but I still managed to win the match though. And then faced off against Static in the final again, and he was using his Elemental Hero deck. Now there was one point where I got stuck behind Absolute Zero and Grandmore, but I did a really cool play to break his board. I got out Dark Magician, or was it Prisma, copying Dark Magician. It was one of the two. I played Eye of Timaeus, made Amulet Dragon, attacked and destroyed the Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero's effect then triggered, destroyed my Amulet Dragon, but then Amulet Dragon's effect kicked off and let me special summon a Spellcaster. I of course chose Dark Magician, then in main phase 2 activated Knight's title, brought out Dark Magician Knight and destroyed the Grand Mole with his effect. and I won the whole tournament. So yay for Dark Magician nights. After that came my 6th trip to Margate, where I mainly hung out with Neo-Nexus, Scapegoat User, and a different girlfriend, because at some point between the 5th trip and the 6th trip, he and Avril split up, which was unfortunate. So yeah, I had a few games when I arrived, although they were pretty unsuccessful, I must say. Scapegoat Users Yang Zings beat my Dark Magician. Don't remember the other matchup I had. I remember one point where I got gamed by Spell Striker, used in one of Neo-Nexus's decks. And then the next day, we went off to their local tournament, and I took generic spellcasters, which was next. I thought I'd do really well, considering I had success with generic spellcasters before, but sadly I didn't. Now, if I remember correctly, only 4 rounds were played that day, before the top 4 cut. And I lost against someone playing Gladiator Fists, and I was doing well and probably would have won, but I made a huge misplay in game 2. Don't remember what that misplay was though, but it did go to a game 3, and then I lost that. I don't think Heraclinos came up, thankfully. I did win my next round though, which was against Wiggy. Yes, this was the day when we first met. Yeah, he played Light Swans, but I was able to beat him, despite the Light Swan shenanigans. After that, I went up against one of their star players, Alex Reed Lofts, and he was playing Boojins, and I struggled a lot against him. But I did so well in game 2 and thought I was going to take it to a 3rd game. I didn't, and lost that. Then I went up against Noble Knights, who I believe was played by Eddie Chan, I think. And this was the first time I actually went up against Noble Knights. I mean, they'd been around for like a couple of years by that point, but this was the very first time I went up against them. I didn't do too badly to start off with. I think I won game 1, lost game 2, and then really struggled in game 3. And I decided in Majesty's Fiend, which I thought would help, but rather annoyingly, I couldn't get it onto the field. I just couldn't keep a monster on the field, because anything I set kept getting destroyed by Noble Arms off. The equipped spell that I can never pronounce, but you know what one I'm talking about, the one which lowers the attack points of the equipped monster by 500 and pops a set card. And yeah, I just ended up losing that. So yeah, unfortunately it was just a complete wash, only winning 1 match. That was disappointing. But it was still a good time, though. Meanwhile, Scapegoat User and Neo Nexus made the top 4, but didn't make the final. Then after that, Scapegoat User had a few games with my Rainbow Neos deck and won every single game he had with it, including against my Evil Heroes and my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck. Even at one point I got Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon out, but it ran into a Mirror Force. Then the following day I had a few games against his level 1 Beats deck, or maybe it was just one, and I beat that with my Prophecy Dark Magician deck. And then we met up with Flannery, Wiggy and Mr. Sasuke Dragon in the CAF. And I had a game against Wiggy with my Dark Magician deck, but really struggled. I just got overwhelmed by his Light Swans and just kept dead drawing a load of cards, which was unfortunate. The deck was supposed to do a lot better than that. Typical. I love how I was able to beat his Light Swans with generic spellcasters, but couldn't beat it with my signature deck. Typical. And then that evening, me and the others played Mario Kart and Cards Against Humanity, which was a laugh. Oh yeah, and we had a couple of battle royales, both of which Scapegoat User did win. I used Dark Magician in one of them to start off with. Don't remember what the other two played though, but I remember in the second one, I used Legendary Hero. Scapegoat User played his own spell books, and Neo Exodus was playing Worms, which was also running the Hands and Kage to Kage, but he was not doing so well to start off with. He was just getting a load of dead draws. I felt bad for him, and I was being nice to him and was just leaving him alone until he had stuff, and I was trying to go for Scapegoat User, but he kept countering everything I did with either Wing Blast or Spellbook of Fate, which kept being recycled. God, that was annoying, and he won the whole thing. But on the plus side, at least Legendary Hero was doing a lot better than it did in 2013. Then, on the last day before I had to go, we had a couple more battle royals, one of which where we all used decks that I owned. I went with Dark Magician, Neo Nexus used my Red Eyes Black Dragon deck, and Scapegoat User used my Rainbow Neos deck. And I remember, despite having Rainbow Neos out, Neo Nexus managed to take him out with Red Eyes Darkness Dragon. Meanwhile, me and Neo were on low life points, and I brought out Honor Arc and attached Darkness to it, then MST'd one of his back rows, which was Mirror Force, and then I went to attack for game, and he activated Magic Cylinder, which wiped out my life points. It was like, Honor Arc for game, then he went Cylinder for game, then I went, no! And then he just laughed in triumph, and then I was like, I hit the wrong card with MST. Yeah, if I'd hit the Cylinder instead of Mirror Force, I would have been perfectly fine. And won that, but I didn't. Then we had another one where Scapegoat User used Gladiator Beasts. I switched to Dark Magician Hero, and and Neo Nexus used my elemental heroes. And yeah, I mainly tried to go for Scapegoat User because he was the biggest threat, and luckily he did get taken out before he had a chance to bring out Heraklinos, but then Neo Nexus took me out, mainly with Flame Wingman. And after that, Emma joined us for a bit and hung out. It was so nice to see her again after a couple of years. Then me and Neo Nexus had a Red Eyes mirror match. Only mine was pure, his was Red Eyes Ruler. So basically it was a Red Eyes Black Dragon deck with the Dragon Rulers thrown in. Yeah, he managed to beat me 2-1. And I was even saying, I think the bad luck from the previous mirror match was reversed. So yeah, this time he took the win. Then we had a couple more games where he used a couple of my decks, and I won both of those. Then after that, a legendary hero was up in tournament play. Oh my god, why does Vodafone keep texting me? I'm getting spam. Let me see. So yeah, legendary hero was up, and yeah, I had a really good run. First I won against Shieldwing David's Store Wings. Oh yeah, and by that point I was running pendulums in that deck. I was playing Stargazer, Time Gazer, and Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. I think it was only one copy of each though, because that was all I could get at the time. Then I lost against Darren, who was playing Burning Abyss, but I remember I made a huge misplay against him. I activated Time Gazer Magician, then activated MST on his only back row, which was Wing Blast, and he spun Time Gazer back. Even to this day, I'm still kicking myself over that. I was like, why did I put a god on the field first? Why did I do that? Like, that messed me up. Because if I played those cards the other way round, then Wing Blast would have spun nothing, and I would have got to draw a new card on the following turn. So yeah, I lost that. Then I lost against Steve-O, who was playing Zombies. I did win my other two matches though. I met a younger player called Adam, who was playing Malefics, which had me worried because I was having horrible flashbacks of the defeat Malefics handed me 4 weeks previously. But luckily history didn't repeat itself and I managed to win against him. Then in the fifth and final round was actually when I met Giorgio for the first time ever. And at the time he was playing a water deck and I managed to win against him. So I had a very successful run with Legendary Hero. Didn't top though, but I was perfectly happy with how I did, despite that misplay against Burning Abyss. 4 weeks later, I had similar good luck with Dark Richician Hero, even though I wasn't off to the best start. I lost against Yang Zings, which was a struggle. It was Alex's Yang Zings, but Callum borrowed them for the tournament, and there was one point where Goyo Guardian attacked over my Dark Magician and took it. I was like, no! I did bring out the the Shining, though, in a bid to get rid of either monster. Um, but then, what I wasn't told until a turn later, that Goyo Guardian was gaining a 500 point buff, which was off the fire Yangzing. I can't remember its name. But it was fine either way. I was at least able to attack and destroy Dark Magician just to stop him using it against me. And luckily, Go Guardian couldn't take the Shining, because obviously it can't be special summoned from the graveyard. Ha ha! I still lost though. And then I lost against Express Gaming, and I think at this point he was playing his hand deck, which was running the hands, some trap tricks, and spirit monsters. Maybe it was Hat, although I don't remember him having any artifacts in his deck at that point. And yeah, I lost against him partially because I made a misplay against him. Although I don't remember what that misplay was. I doubt he remembers. So, yeah. Things were not going well. But things did pick up, though. I did win against Mega Subatomic with that Synchro deck. Then I won against Shieldwing David. But I don't remember who my other win was against. Either way, I wasn't going to complain. I won 3 matches. Then 2 weeks after that, there was a structure deck tournament for the Gear structure deck. Kind of unfortunate. I was hoping it would be a normal tournament, but while this was running, me, Alex, and Express Gaming decided to do our own mini tournament, a mini league one. So how it would work is we'd all play each other at least once, and whoever got the most wins would win the whole thing. So first of all, me and Alex faced off first. Oh, and he was using Yang Zings at this point, and I used my last Dark Magician deck, which was Prophecy Dark Magician. And I managed to win against him 2-1. Then Express Gaming and Alex faced off. Again, he was using Hat, but Alex was able to win against him with not too many problems. And then the last round, it was me and Express Gaming, and I won against him. Although, when I was editing, I noticed that I made a mistake against Alex that messed up the game state, and it was involving what's the card's name? Was it Hand of Prophecy? The level 3 one that special summons a level 5 or higher spellcaster, a light or dark spellcaster from the deck. Temperance, that was it, Temperance of Prophecy. Now, what I forgot when I used that effect was that if I do that effect, I can't special summon any other level 5 or higher monsters in the same turn, and yeah, that's what I did after using that effect. Oh, that's so annoying. Like, how did I overlook this? Yeah, that changed everything, and like I said, it just messed up the game state. Now, I did offer to redo it over DevPro or something. I would have done it in a real life game, but rather annoyingly, after the event, I'd taken the deck apart, so but I don't think he had any way to duel online at that point, so we just declared that a double game loss, and made the whole thing a draw between the two of us. So yeah, that was it, and that concluded the celebrations for 10 years since I first played Dark Magician in a deck. What else was I going to say? I don't think much else happened really. Although I did play Evil Heroes in a tournament, but didn't get very far. I only won 2 games, one of which was against Express Gaming with Noble Knights, and I remember 2 of my losses being against 2 Burning Abyss players. Oh well. Oh yeah, and a little bit earlier in the year I made my Hero City deck, which was a mixture of Big City, Little City, Bubble Beat and Hero Beat, which was a cool idea I came up with, and put that together in the summer. And I forgot to mention that I used that in a game against Neo Nexodus and won. And during December I wanted to play this in a tournament, but rather annoyingly I was called into work on the Saturday when a tournament was running. So annoying. And it was the last tournament of the year, so once again I missed out on the last tournament of the year. So I had to wait till the next chance I could get, which will come up when I talk about 2015. But for now, this concludes the Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff from 2014. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next part. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Dark Richician YouTube channel.